exciting episode of the $1 Million Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
Today we're going to talk about being scared. But not being scared to pull the trigger on a deal. We're not scared of doing that.
No, definitely not.
Not being scared of listing things. Your listers are, but we're not. Correct. Well, I kind of am, but that's a whole other story. But rather, scared of using certain words as keywords. And some of this is vestiges of eBay policies past, and some of it is the fact that you can't ever really tell what eBay's rules are about things. And we were talking about doing this video because you gave eBay a call the other week in regard to some magazines that you had picked up that you used to not be allowed to list on there, but now you are. You listed a fair number of them on Amazon. Yep. And you had some left over.
Yep.
And why don't you tell what they are and your past history with those magazines?
So a customer reached out to me through the website, mr-magazine.com, and he was selling a High Times collection. Which is, it's about marijuana, weed, stuff like that.
Marijuana and weed, holy mackerel.
Horticulture, you got it. All that fun stuff. Anyways, so we worked out a deal. He shipped them to me. And generally, we've always just put them on Amazon because Amazon always allowed it. And eBay never did for many, many years. So then...
well, and I think for a period of time, there were a lot of them on there. And then all of a sudden, they started kicking them off. Right. And so it was never... It was clear as mud whether you could list those or not.
Yeah, but with the the laws changing in most states, I think things opened up. So we had a bunch of duplicates and some that weren't on Amazon. So I said, well, let's try eBay because I did see some on there. But I always be proactive and say, let's call them, make sure that
those didn't just slip through the cracks.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So we called up and they said we're good to go. And we started listing on eBay and got some bids already this week. So, can't argue with that.
And so eBay did say those are allowed.
Correct, yeah.
So at this point, you are allowed to list marijuana magazines.
Correct,
Let's say,
yeah.
Because I've picked up some magazines in the past as well that were about that. And I just put those on eBay or on Amazon for exactly the same reason.
Right.
What are some other words, if you can think of them, that you just get into not wanting to list, not even if they're bad or not? And I'll give you a perfect example. You get into things, incest. You get into books that discuss it. I'm talking psychological journals that discuss it, things like that. And all of a sudden, you're afraid that you're not allowed to list it. And we're not talking, it's nothing prurient. It's a psychological discussion of what goes on with these kind of things.
Right.
And you're better off not listing it.
Yeah.
You get into, at times, at least in the past, there was always a little bit of question about, you got into homosexuality and all that sort of thing, about whether, geez, can I list this? What can I say about this? You certainly can't, at this point on eBay, you can't list Black Americana as such.
Right.
Even though it has
flag and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you definitely. So then you're getting into things with Civil War stuff. You obviously have to list it as Civil War, but it's
historical.
And it's a true book. It's like a book about the history of the Civil War that came out in 1911.
Right.
People are buying it to read about the Civil War. That's what they're buying it for.
Right.
And then the rules get really weird because you're allowed to list things with the swastika on them if they're books.
Right.
But other things with it you cannot. And then you get into the magazines, and I do list the magazines that have it on, and a lot of the magazines do have it on from the 1940s.
Right. I just don't mention it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because even Nazi, I don't want to mention that.
Right.
Because I'm afraid that there's going to be some kind of an issue with eBay that they think in some way I'm promoting it. Exactly. Any of the other hate groups, it's the same way. You get it there. Yep. You see a lot of things are listed from it. And again, we're not talking about anything at all that supports this. We're talking about historical books that discuss it. We're talking about magazines that discuss world events that happened. Right. And so you're paging through a magazine and you see something like that. And a lot of times you're on eggshells about how to list it, whether you can list it or not.
Yeah.
And one thing to remember is eBay, and not just eBay, all of the major sites, they have artificial intelligence. They have bots going through it.
Right.
And the bots can't tell the difference one way or the other. and this has not happened to me, but I could see where it could happen. You're not allowed to list Mein Kampf on eBay. What if I had a magazine from that time that had a review of that book in it? Which books have book reviews. New York Times may have done a book review of it. There could have been a book review of it.
Yeah.
Now you've got this, and you're scared to mention that it's got the book review of this. Nothing to do with the book itself, other than, this piece of garbage, blah, blah. That's historically important. Yeah. Yet you walk on eggshells about what you can and cannot put in.
I remember I was doing my employer was listing newspapers from World War II era, and there was a derogatory Asian term.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the headline.
Yep.
And that was a violation, and you would never think that because it's in the newspaper. The newspaper's 70 years old or whatever, but again, you always have to think ahead and be proactive and always call up no matter what.
Well, and I'll give a perfect example of that of World War II things, and it's kind of sidestepping or tiptoeing around exactly what it is. I have some had some World War II, I'm going to call them wire photos. They weren't exactly wire photos, but they were essentially wire photos. And they showed carnage of the war. And some of them showed dead soldiers.
Right.
How do you put that down? Nobody is buying it because they, it's historical.
Right.
That is truly what it is. It's historical.
Or the research, it could be for anything.
And not only did this have the pictures, but then underneath it had the little blurb explaining what it was. These soldiers died fighting at Anzio, 3 days of fighting, whatever the case happens to be. So it certainly is a piece of history right there. Right. Yet you've got to be very, very careful about what you put and how you put it in there, because you don't want to. The thing that will most sell it, you don't want to glorify. So then you've got to kind of tiptoe around what it really is, because you don't want these bots that don't understand the historical importance of it. They just see the word. And that happens all the time. You get into Native American things.
Oh, how about Amazon with the Washington football team?
Oh, yeah. Anything.
They ended tons of our listings with their original name. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any of that kind of stuff is as well, even though, that was the name for 70 years or whatever it happens to be. And I'm pretty sure you've got a Sammy Ball card from 1944, whatever the heck it is. It's not, it's again, it's a piece of history, and you're not putting it on to try to glorify anything whatsoever. It's simply that was what it was back then. And you get into, again, the word Indian, and you're listing something from an Indian motorcycle.
Yeah.
Or you run into problems where you have to verify that it's okay to list when you get into the word Indian in a lot of postcards, because you'll have Indian Lake or Indian Hills or something like that. People use that,
nothing negative about it. Yeah.
Indian River Road, whatever. That was just the name of the road. And all of a sudden, are you listing things? Is this made by the craftsman of the Native Americans? No, it's a postcard. So always be careful. Look at those warnings at least the first couple of times when they come up. If you are listing brochures for Indian motorcycles, they are allowed to be listed. You will get that every single time. You'll get the little warning though. Right. Oh, yeah. And it's just certain words that the bots will just peg. So be a little bit careful. Do contact eBay if you do have any questions about it. And I think the final word of warning I can give you is, just because you see a lot of them on there does not mean it's okay.
Correct.
One big thing that you'll see people doing now, and this isn't necessarily words, although they do try that as well, you'll see adult magazines that people are putting on in regular eBay, trying to skirt through, and they'll just list, 9 pinup magazines, and these will be just, when you say pinup, these are 1990s hardcore.
Oh yeah, or they'll do a Playboy lot, and then there's this non-Playboy magazines that are hardcore. Yeah, because
the bots are picking up the word Playboy, and nobody else is researching it after that. Right. So those are the ways they're doing it. So you see somebody doing that, and you think, oh, I can do that. No, you can't. All it takes is one person seeing that, reporting you, and all of a sudden you've got a strike on your account. So do be very proactive on these things and be careful. There are certain words, like I said, we've talked in our live show, which if you haven't seen before, you definitely should. It's every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m., the most interactive live show out there. You can't list COVID-19. You cannot say that because their bots appear to think that you're trying to sell face masks or some kind of a medicine for it or something like that. No, I'm trying to sell a magazine from March of 2020. That's what I'm trying to sell. That's about it. But their bots can't figure that out. Whether, you would think they'd be able to program them where certain categories would get a little more leeway or would have a human person look at it. If I'm in the drugs medicine area and I list something with that word, yes, flag it. Most certainly flag it. I absolutely agree because I'm probably selling something I shouldn't. I'm in a magazine category.
Right.
Flag it for a human to take a look at. And the human takes a look at it and says,
exactly.
Oh, it's a March 27th, 2020 Newsweek magazine. That can go. But unfortunately, that's not the way they do it. All of the websites end things. They shoot first and ask questions later is essentially what it comes down to. So hopefully this helps you some and keeps your account out of trouble. You never can be too careful. Now, we've been on long enough. We've been shell-shocked, I think, for a long time here just because we've had issues before with eBay. We're definitely going to err on the side of caution. Nothing wrong with that. It just means sometimes we have things that we don't list just because we're not sure about. And you've talked to eBay, I've talked to eBay. We both know that sometimes you get one answer from one person, a different answer from a different person. And I don't necessarily want to go and waste my time calling to find something out when I've got one of an item.
Right.
I've got better things to do with my time. I've got other things to list. I can put that in the corner and wait till I get enough of them to contact them.
Sure.
So hopefully that helps you. So I'll give you another one. Actually, we were talking, basically you get into any of the drugs. And by that, I mean articles about them. There's a Life magazine out there with, I think, magic mushrooms from 1960 or something like that. Right. Even that, I'm looking at it going, are you allowed to list that? Because do their bots think you're trying to sell something that you're not trying to sell?
Sure.
And it can be a little tough at times because you're just
frustrating.
That's a good way to put it. Yep. Because the rules are clear as mud and always have been and probably always will be. So do hit the like button. Do let us know things that you shy away from listing or troubles that you've had when you've listed stuff. Because, again, there's only so many things that we run into. So who knows what else might be out there that we're not aware of. So do hit the like button. Do comment down below, and we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.